We're going to be using a mock-up of one of our student referral systems that we have in place, and this is the spreadsheet portion. This is just a mock-up I'm doing for one of my schools, so all of the data doesn't really pertain to any particular student, and as you can see, there's really no description of any incidents. So we're going to be talking about ImportRange, its function, and then unique and sort and how to use those. We're going to be using that with the full year breakdown, and I'm going to be importing all of the students here using ImportRange, and I'm going to be taking that information from here. Now, ImportRange can be done a couple different ways. For example, if I just create a new tab, and on that tab, I'm going to just put that this is ImportRange test. So ImportRange is pretty simple. You start with an equal sign. To do any formula in spreadsheets, you have to start with an equal sign so that the spreadsheet knows you're about to ask it to use a function. And then if you start typing import, you can see you have different pieces here that you can use, and we're going to be focusing on the ImportRange piece. So whenever you're importing a range, you need two pieces. You need where you're getting the information from and what piece of that information you want to take. So the where is going to be the URL. And since we're importing from this particular piece, the form response, we're going to grab this, and that's the URL, and we're going to go back and we're going to put it in here. And it has to be surrounded by quotes. So you can see there's the big HTML code around quotes, and then we're going to hit a comma. So that's the first piece of information. We're going to get the information from this piece of the URL. The second piece of the information is what are you going to get? So what we are going to get is we're going to get the information from form response. So we're just going to copy this form response tab, and then we're going to, again, using a quote, put that in. So now it knows what tab you're getting it from, but you also have to tell it what column you want to take it from. And to do that, you need to use an exclamation point. So the exclamation point signals the difference between your tab and your column. The first section of that is your tab, and after the exclamation point is your columns that you're going to be pulling in. So let's say I want to pull in all the information from B to P all the way down to the end of whatever it is. So to do that, I need to just put B:P. So now it knows that I want to go from column B to column P and take all the information in there. So when I hit enter, it's going to start loading. And now it's going to ask me for permission. Even though it's the same spreadsheet, you have to give it permission to get that data. So all you're going to do is click Allow Access, and then it will populate all of it. In this particular case, we see that the headers are there, and that we see all the information is there. So now that we know how to set this up, we're going to start talking about ImportRange and its use with the full year piece and the students. So we have this formula here. One of the things I want to talk about, though, before we do that, is I want to talk about shortening this, because sometimes on this URL right here, this is a lot of information, and it's a lot of information that can be screwed up. And we're going to be using this particular piece over and over again, and rewriting it every single time can be kind of daunting. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy this, and I'm going to put it in my variables tab that's over here. So now that I have this URL copied, I'm going to go over to my variables tab, which is right here, and you're going to see that I have a variable here. So I'm literally just going to paste that in. I'm going to just extend it a little bit just to make sure that I have all of it in the same piece and it's easier for me to see. You can actually make several variables here. You may have an original URL. You may also have, student services URL. And you can put those all in here. So instead of writing all the URLs or keeping them keeping track of them, you'll be able to point to these based on the location they are in the cells. For this problem, though, all we're doing is we're dealing with the first one, which is a B2. So now, instead of writing all of this information, if I go in here and I delete out that URL, all I have to do is click on my variables tab, click on the B2 slot, and as you can see, it says variables, exclamation point B2, and as a reference, it's asking for the tab and then what part of that tab you're looking for. And if I hit enter, it gives me the same data. And this is a lot shorter to deal with than I had to deal with before, and less of a chance of making a mistake. So that's how you would use the variables tab to shorten out this code. Now this is going to be important for when we go to the full year breakdown. So I can actually take this information here and copy it and go to the full year breakdown and paste it in here. I'm going to end up probably getting an error, and the error says the results are not automatically expandable. So the problem is I have information in other spots here, and it's not able to expand down in order to do all the information. And that's because I'm taking so much. I'm taking from B to P. But if we're looking at the student's name, all I need to do is use column D. So I'm going to go and import my range from column D2 to column D. And I hit enter, and it starts to load. And then all of my students' data will be there once it loads up. You may see this error loading data. It doesn't mean that you actually have an error. It just means it's grabbing all the data that you had requested, and it's taking a minute to load up. So now that the data is loaded, all I got to do is expand my columns to take all the information in. I highlight the whole column, I double click on there, and it'll automatically expand for me. So all of my students' data is here, and I did it through the import range. But one of the things you're going to notice is that I have Smith, Allen, all of these names are kind of out of order. And you'll notice that I have some students that are doubled up. So the first thing I want to show you is that sort function that I was talking about. And all I actually have to do is put the word sort in front and then put the import range in parentheses. And what sort does, it actually will alphabetize the names. And as you can see, as I hit enter, all of the names are now alphabetized. The second problem I have, if you look at Alan Thomas, they have 3 referrals and it's showing up 3 times. And we don't necessarily want them to show up 3 times. So now that I want to get rid of all 3 of these and only have 1, I need to use something called unique. And all unique does is it grabs unique identifiers and only gives those values back. So I'm going to put the unique between the import range and the sort. And if you notice, every time I do that, I have to open up a parenthesis, and that parenthesis just segregates out which particular function you're using. And the reason I need 3 of these parentheses is I'm using 3 functions: sort, unique, and import range. So now I hit enter, and you can see that now I only have 1 of each individual student in here, even though some of the students might have multiple things or multiple infractions that they're being given a referral on. One more thing I do want to mention is every time you open up a parenthesis, you need to make sure you're closing a parenthesis. So you'll notice that I also have 3 closed parentheses here in conjunction with my 3 open parentheses here. This is how Google knows that you're done with that particular function. So if you have any questions, let me know via email or rewatch the video.